mynews.studio.
A single vote in a Caribbean parliament could tip the scales for a global ocean treaty. What's the holdup?
Today is July 22nd, 2025. The world's high seas, almost half the planet, are on the verge of getting a historic legal shield. I have to ask, what's happened this week in Nice?
At the third United Nations Ocean Conference in Nice, over 170 countries came together. The big news: 50 nations have now ratified the High Seas Treaty. That's just 10 short of the 60 needed for it to become international law. And we saw some influential countries, Jamaica, Indonesia, Norway, formally sign during the summit.
Why does that number matter so much? 60. Why is that the threshold everyone's watching?
That's set by UN rules. The treaty only kicks in after 60 countries ratify it. Once we reach that number, there's a 120-day countdown before it actually takes effect. So if momentum keeps up, it could be just weeks away.
For anyone who's not been tracking this, what does the High Seas Treaty actually do? Is it just about creating marine parks, or does it go further?
It's broader than marine parks. The treaty, officially called the BBNJ Agreement, sets up a legal structure to protect 30% of international waters by 2030. It covers fishing, shipping, environmental assessments, and even how we share benefits from marine genetic resources. For the first time, global rules would apply to these areas.
When you say benefit sharing, do you mean profits from things like new medicines discovered in the ocean?
Exactly. If, say, a company finds a useful compound in the deep sea, the treaty has mechanisms so that all countries, not just the one doing the research, can share in those benefits.
So, with 50 countries on board, why is it still such a struggle to get the final 10? What's actually holding them back?
A lot comes down to internal politics and economic worries. Some governments are concerned about their fishing industries or about future deep-sea mining rights. Others just have competing priorities or slow legislative systems. In some places, industry groups are lobbying against the treaty.
Who's leading the push to get those last 10 signatures? Is this mainly a UN effort, or are others involved?
It's a combination. The UN Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, is making direct appeals. France's President Macron is active diplomatically. The EU is offering funding and technical help, especially to countries in Africa, the Caribbean, and the Pacific. Plus, NGOs like Greenpeace and the High Seas Alliance are helping with advocacy and legal advice.
Okay, let's say the treaty gets those last 10 ratifications. How does enforcement actually work? Who checks if countries are following the rules?
There are a few layers. The treaty creates a conference of the parties, basically a COP, to oversee how it's carried out. Countries will need to do environmental impact assessments for activities in international waters. There's also support for satellite monitoring, vessel tracking, and international cooperation on surveillance. But in the end, compliance depends on both political will and technology.
Has anything like this been done before, at this scale, for the oceans?
Not really. There are frameworks for places like the Antarctic, but for the high seas, it's mostly been a legal gray area. That's why this treaty is seen as such a shift.
Why should someone who isn't an ocean expert care about any of this? What's really at stake here?
The high seas help regulate the climate, support global fisheries, and hold most marine biodiversity. If we don't protect them, we risk food system disruptions and faster climate change. Billions of people, directly or indirectly, rely on healthy oceans.
So, over the next few weeks, everyone's watching those last 10 countries. If they sign, in just 4 months, we could see new marine protected areas and stricter rules for international waters.
That's the hope. These coming months are really crucial for the oceans and for international cooperation.
That's it for today's story. A treaty for the high seas hinging on 10 votes. The stakes are climate, food security, and whether nations can pull together.
Thanks for listening. We'll be following those final ratifications, and remember, what happens on the high seas has an impact on everyone.
Thank you for listening. This episode was brought to you by mynews.studio. You can try it now for free.